It's possible to overstate the relevance of the rollback of the AUMF, the 2002 one in particular, because A, that is more oriented towards Iraq. B, presidents have been able to engage in what they now call kinetic activity as opposed to war making without having to cite the AUMF, although it's sort of been like a secondary justification. However, it's also possible that in ending the 2002 AUMF, we may end up seeing the end of the 2001 AUMF, and this may be an indication that Congress is trying to reassert itself. Don't hold your breath, but reassert itself in the war-making ability of this country.
But we're also not getting rid of either AUMF without the filibuster.
Without the filibuster going away.
McConnell already said that he's blocking this.
All
I mean, okay, you got Mike Lee maybe, and then you got Rand Paul. And
right.
You need 8 more.
Here is Ilhan Omar talking about her experience of living through war.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to our distinguished author, Congresswoman Lee, for bringing forth this legislation. Madam Speaker, for the past 20 years, the 2002 authorization has been used to wage war and cause destruction around the world. While many in this Congress have participated in war, I'm someone who has endured war and understand the impact it has on innocent lives. The act of war does nothing to make us safe. Engaging in endless wars has led us to undermining our most important morals, peace, liberty, and justice.
So impressive, you know, I mean, to have at least someone give some type of insight into what it feels like to be subjected to the war that at the very least the 2002 AUMF unleashed in this instance in Iraq. Here is Barbara Lee introducing the bill to repeal the 2002 AUMF. She was the only person to vote against the 2001 AUMF. I don't know if she was the only person to vote against the 2002. I don't think she was.
I don't believe so, but still, just the courage cannot be overstated.
Right. She has the sort of the moral legitimacy, and frankly, one could argue just sort of even the practical legitimacy of like noting like this didn't work out so well.
Right.
Now, 18 years ago, in front of the infamous Mission Accomplished banner backdrop, former President Bush told the nation that the major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In 2011, President Obama brought our combat troops home, and yet this authority remains on the books, vulnerable to misuse because Congress has not acted to remove it. The Bush administration, yes, misled the American people by saying there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that Iraq posed an imminent threat, and by drawing a false connection between the tragic events of 9/11 and Saddam Hussein. Those lies and misinformation had deadly consequences. The mistakes continue to haunt us today. Once the war started, led by Chairwoman Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey, and myself, we founded the Out of Iraq Caucus. Over 80 members joined. Many of us took our protests to the streets, joining hundreds of thousands protesting the unnecessary, immoral war of choice. Year after year, we worked for the safe and orderly withdrawal of our troops. I share all this history because, not because of nostalgia, but we have to remember why this authorization was passed. Because 87% of members of Congress now of the current House were not here to vote on this AUMF in 2002. The Constitution requires that we cannot appropriate funds for armies for more than 2 years. And yet, for almost 2 decades, we have failed to revisit these AUMFs. To this day, our endless war continues, costing trillions of dollars and thousands of lives in a war that goes way beyond any scope that Congress conceived or intended. And I want to salute our veterans, our young men and women in uniform. They did everything we've asked them to do. Many veterans support this repeal. The outdated 2002 AUMF, it bears no correlation to the threats we face today. The president earlier made clear when he stated his support for the bill. Can I have another just 10 seconds?
I yield the gentlelady another 10 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The president stated his support for the bill, saying that the 2002 AUMF will not impact current military operations, but repeal can prevent our country from entering another protracted engagement under this outdated authority.
I mean, there it is. So, I mean, it's good that the House voted against it. I don't think we'll see the action in the Senate necessarily. It was a process for the House and to relinquish its authority to wage war. And it's going to take more than a couple of votes, obviously, and I don't know that they'll ever, really have that balance. But the presidency, in its ability to sort of wage war, it's frankly out of control. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And no president, regardless of party, is going to sort of cede that power unless...
we saw it with Obama, who ran on an anti-war platform, and that's how he essentially got into office. And then he did not curtail the complete disintegration of protections or roll them back that allowed for these kinds of abuses to happen. And just to return to Ilhan Omar for a second, she's experienced war. She was in a refugee camp, for example, just one of the many horrors and difficulties she had to face due to war. So much of the United States arrogance is because no one in this population has had war on our shores. Of course, Americans have experienced mass shootings, whatever the case may be, but we have not seen war waged in Indiana or in Florida or in Vermont, wherever. And that's really, I think, integral to the cavalier attitude that we have about murdering people in either a sanitized way via drones or in warfare and in waging war. It's changed a bit, but to have that voice in Congress, someone who has personally experienced it in her country, in her home country, I mean, you can't overstate that.